Welcome to Stop Dating Losers. Get your free relationship advice and so much more on my website. Subscribe and share this video with everyone you know. Let us begin, shall we? All right. First comment on the chopping block. To men, you are masculine and feminine. Get jacked, get rich, talk to women. But don't forget, open your heart, be nurturing, love fiercely. As Carl Jung once said, the most masculine man has a feminine soul. Absolutely. And for you women out there, this is how you identify a real man. It's really that simple. If he doesn't enjoy talking about relationships, he's a waste of your time. Please understand this, because if you ignore this, you're going to end up with a mediocre man and you're not going to be happy, or an absolute loser who's going to use you or abuse you or both. That's the truth. Real men enjoy talking about relationships, love, the beauty of life itself. They know how to mute all the negative stuff. There's a time and place for that. But what do they really enjoy doing with their lives? Is it playing video games and watching movies every single day, ad nauseum, to no end, 24/7, 365 days a year? Because that's not a real man. I'll tell you what. A real man makes things happen, and the only path to real happiness in this life is through the path of true love with a lifelong partner. So, men and women out there, if you don't have a lifelong partner by your side, you are losing. You are not happy. Now, it doesn't mean you're a loser. It just means that you need to get back in there. You need to make it happen, because that's what real men and women do. Now, that's for the ladies out there. That's how you identify a real man. He can get jacked in the gym or at home at a workout program, whatever it is. He can get rich. He can have all the money in the world. He can talk to lots of women, but never commit to any of them. And he could probably cheat on a lot of women too. He can sleep with 31 flavors and say that he's happy, but he's not. That's the bottom line. You're dealing with somebody who doesn't know what he wants. If he's talking to all kinds of women and going out and sleeping with all kinds of... That's not a happy life. Got it? All right. So a real masculine man, he does have a feminine soul, but it's also masculine. I wouldn't put it that way, feminine soul, but he is very in touch with what people refer to as the feminine side. His feminine side. But what I believe is that both men and women are both masculine to a certain degree and feminine to a certain degree, but it doesn't matter. It all translates to being a human being. We both share the word man, woman and man. Why? Because we are humans. Got it? So a human being loves the topic of love, and that's their only mission in life. Everything else is secondary. Of course, you can talk about everything else, but the main mission to accomplish is establishing and maintaining a truly loving, lifelong relationship. So, a woman shouldn't be overly feminine either. She should have a masculine side, just for the purpose of defining masculine and feminine so people better understand it. That is masculine traits, but not to the point where now she's just like another guy. That's horrific. And usually, the females these days, they take it into overdrive. They're overly masculine, but in a toxic way. This bossy behavior is not real masculinity. This nagging, I'm in charge, I'm in control, I don't need anybody, trust no one. That's all toxic forms of masculinity. That's not real masculinity. And a man of few words, that's also garbage. There's a lot of women out there who adopt that same toxic trait. All right, so with that said, We want a strong woman as an ideal candidate for a strong man. They have to equate to each other. But strength meaning you're strongly committed to love in a relationship. You're strong by opening up about your thoughts and your emotions. You're strong in everything that you say you're going to do. You honor your own word and you do it no matter what, whenever possible. This is strength. That's real strength. And so for the toxic guys out there or the weak men out there who don't like cuddling, kissing their ladies on the cheek, hugging them, constantly showing signs of affection and adoration, those are not real men. They're either heavily immature or they're time bombs, ticking time bombs waiting to happen in the future with some type of abusive behavior, neglect, all of the bad stuff. So don't learn the hard way. Don't run head first into that titanium wall. You don't want to be that one to learn the hard way, head first. Take heed because that's a warning. You guys should know better. All the red flags are there. The biggest red flag is a guy who doesn't want to talk about anything when it comes to relationships in a good way, a loving way, or the topic of love. Biggest red flag. That should be painfully easy for women out there to identify a real man. Talk to them about love. Let's see how they respond. Because if they respond in such an immature or evasive manner, they're not worth your time. All right, next comment. I've been told I'm trashy and should be on OnlyFans for saying women should be able to talk about sex. I've been sent more propositions from strangers, and I've been accused of being a bit Barbie. A bit Barbie? That's kind of strange. I don't think I've been overtly sexual on here. In fact, I try to avoid it most of the time, which in itself is a problem. I just don't like being judged or censored for being myself. Okay. Well, I don't know exactly who's telling you that you're trashy and should be on OnlyFans for saying that women should be able to talk about sex. In fact, that's something that a lot of guys are afraid to talk about in a good way, as I was saying previously. So talking about sex, that's one of the most important topics of anybody's lives. It's extremely important. In fact, here's another filter for a man or a woman. If your partner is afraid to talk about sex or avoids the topic of sex, they're not mature. They're not wise. They're not passionate. They're not worth wasting your life over. I hear all the time about sexless marriages. How pathetic is that? What a waste of time. What a waste of life. A sexless marriage. I've heard other occasions where men would say, in particular, men, the women, I guess for some reason they really don't care because they're so far gone, who fall into this category of avoiding sex altogether. There's a lot of men saying, well, we only have sex, I don't know, once every few months. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The ultimate goal should be once a day, if possible. If not possible, oh my goodness, at least a few times a week. What are we talking about here? Anybody who says otherwise is not serious, is not in love. You should want to devour your partner pretty much every time you see them. And that's not an exaggeration. Now, I'm not saying that multiple times in a day. I'm actually against that. But if it happens twice a day, that's fine. If you guys have the time to afford that type of indulgence. But if not, I understand there's different case scenarios where the time isn't quite there, the synchronization isn't quite there, but that needs to be fixed. What's more important in life? And for people who put sex at the last, on the bottom of their list of priorities, they're the unhappy ones. They are the unhappy ones. Whether they're men or women we're talking about here, it doesn't matter. Anyone, this is a golden filter, one of the top 3 filters that I recommend people use. Anyone who puts sex as the lowest priority or somewhere towards the bottom is not worth your time. And if you also are guilty of putting sex as the lowest priority, then you're also not worth anybody's time. Because all you're going to end up with is a mediocre, sad relationship going nowhere fast. Don't believe me? Try it out. You're probably already in such a situation. Well, that's called quicksand. It's only a matter of time before you sink to the very bottom. All because you put sex at the very bottom of your list. See how that works? Everything's going to go south. So, a bit Barbie. What's so Barbie about talking about sex? Barbie, last time I ever knew, was just a toy figure for girls to play with. Barbie. Okay? Barbie is usually related to fashion. Has nothing to do with sex. That makes no sense whatsoever. And overtly sexual on social media platforms. Okay, and you avoid it. Okay. Yeah, and it's sad that many people actually avoid the topic of sex also. All right, so yeah, you shouldn't be censored or judged for being yourself. Absolutely not. Let's go ahead and move on because there's not much more to say for that comment. All right, the loneliness epidemic is mostly self-inflicted by men. Yeah, 100%. Mostly, almost entirely, in fact. They don't talk to women, let alone men, about their emotions or say anything deeper than a hobby and cry about it when no one pays attention to them. Absolutely. That's the truth. That's the unfortunate reality that we see happen everywhere almost these days. At least in the Western world. I can't speak for the rest of the world. But yeah, mainly in the United States. It's absolutely pathetic. You know, the loneliness epidemic, it is real because it is self-inflicted. This is perfectly stated. That first sentence there. It is mostly self-inflicted because these guys, they just want to dish out their offline frustrations online because they're unhappy and they want to say women this and women that and yeah, just a bunch of this and, you know, just everything's negative. Everything is just whining and complaining and just wanting to pick fights with people over the smallest things when it has to come to the topic of women. And so they want to just bash women online every single day to vent out their offline frustration because they're not happy people. And then they waste their precious time of their life. You can have hobbies, but when you're playing your hobbies over and over, whatever it is, over time, that's on you. Now you're wasting precious time because you can spend way too much time on your hobbies and you don't leave room to focus on that which should matter the most, which is if you're single, you need to go find that potential partner. Or if you're already in a marriage or you have a girlfriend for those guys out there, then you need to get working on your relationship because obviously it's lacking if you're spending way too much time with hobbies, whatever they may be. Whatever it may be. So don't cry online because, you're saying, oh, nobody's paying attention. No. Everybody's paying attention to how miserable you are because you're not being productive. All right? So if the shoe fits, don't wear it for too long. Change your shoes. All right, last comment of the show. A man who never opens up. A man who never tells the truth. A man who never gives emotional depth. Lets you see the real him, hides behind ego, avoids hard conversations. That's not a man who doesn't care. That's a man who is scared blankless. Absolutely. It's not a real man, is it? What do you expect a real man to do? Right? I mean, who are we kidding here? Because there's this toxic definition of what a real man is out there, and it's only spread by toxic men. They say, be a man of few words. That doesn't make sense. So that means you don't have anything really important to say. You have no mind of your own. You're not excited about life. You don't have to be the loudest one shouting, but you're just not worth anybody's time, not even your own time. You must be miserable in that body you live in every single day, in that mind that you have. I mean, this is just the truth. This is the bitter truth, and they're gonna live in denial and say, "No, I just don't, have a." Yeah, exactly. You have not much to say because you don't focus on the most important parts of your life. That's the problem. You can talk about movies and video games and sports the whole day, but when it comes to the most important topics of your life, that should be the most important parts of your life, you're empty. You're dry. You're dumbfounded. You have nothing to say, nothing to show for it. Zero happiness. And then you wonder why you feel so bitter and miserable or mediocre. Because you're causing that reality by not opening up. So, you can't be free if you don't free yourself first. Nobody can do it for you, buddy. All right, so never tells the truth. All right, well, telling the truth is important, but sometimes you have to lie to protect others. I can accept some exceptions. Sure. Emotional depth, yeah, well, if they're not going to open up, then they don't have any emotional depth. Lets you see the real him. Well, that's debatable. Now, to your partner, they need to know the real you. But to the rest of the world, you can keep that to yourself. You don't have to show the whole world who the real you is. It's nobody's business. But to your partner, absolutely. Because if you're potentially going to spend the rest of your life with your partner, they have a right to know because you agreed to that right. It's a privilege to be with each other. It's supposed to be the most beautiful thing on earth for you in your life. So if you don't show your partner the real you, you're lying to them and you're lying to yourself. You're scared. You're living in fear. That's why this person ended it. This comment was scared blankless. Yeah, what are you afraid of? Right? Because when it comes to relationships, everything has to be put on the table. You don't hide anything. Nothing. Because there are relationships out there, couples, where one partner will be hiding something for 20 years, 30 years, 10 years, however much. And when they finally open up about it, their partner is shocked. Like, why didn't you just tell me this in the very beginning? Or why didn't you tell me about this when it was happening? And then they end up in an explosive argument that can completely destroy the relationship. Congratulations, failed relationship. See where that goes? So that's not a man who doesn't care. That's a man who's scared blankless. Absolutely. And the hard conversations, yeah, it's an ego problem. Absolutely. So avoiding they don't have to be hard conversations. They're important conversations. Once you list an important conversation as difficult, that's because you're giving very poor effort to address what needs to be addressed. That's why it's difficult for you. You need to reverse that and say, no, these are easy conversations because they're priority conversations. That's the right mindset to that. And ego, my oh my, is there tons of really toxic ego out there, and they're just like disguised as masculinity. No. That's toxic masculinity, and it does exist. All right. So with that said, if you have made it this far, it's time to become a free member on my website. You'll get free relationship advice and so much more. Also, drop a comment with the topic that you'd like for me to go over, and I'll make it happen. Much love, everybody.